Welcome back to the BoomBastiCAST with the one and only Alexander Hauck and the great Mathew Fisher. And today's episode is, I gotta say, a dream come true for me because we are going to have Mr. Richard Burgi on the show. And I gotta say, I've been huge fan of his since his series, The Sentinel. Um, and ever since that, you see him popping up in like Fun with Dick and Jane with Jim Carrey. You see him in Hostel 2. You see him in Desperate Housewives. You see him in Starship Troopers 2. I mean, yeah, and as soon as you see him, he commands your attention. He's one of those people that he walks in and you know it's going to be a good show. I mean, every time I watch a TV show and he shows up, I was like, I I might not even like the show. I'd be just flipping through the channels and I see him in there as a recurring character, as a guest character. I was like, I guess so. I guess see what's going to happen because he's always great to watch.
Yeah, great energy.
Heck yeah.
Always fun. Whenever I see him in a television show or a movie, man, he's always killing it, dude. And he looks like he's having fun doing it, which is the key to it. You know what I mean? In the roles that he's supposed to, you know what I mean? Tell that he's having fun. But gathering, he has fun with them all, I think. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't see it because it's supposed to be a serious thing. But yeah, dude, I was super psyched when you got him because like I was a fan too. I know you're a super fan. I'm a super fan now. But I know that you were definitely he was somebody on your bucket list of people to get, and I was super excited for us both when it came through and it went down. But yeah, dude, this was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? I remember seeing him on an episode of The Haunting of it was like a celebrity ghost story type show where he I believe the house he grew up in, it was his grandfather's house, and it was haunted by I think a soldier or something like that, of somebody who unalived themselves. We say unalive so we don't get kicked off of YouTube, you know what I mean? But yeah, we didn't tap into this on this episode, but I definitely want to get into some of his we got into the spiritual side of him, but I want to try and get into the paranormal, more into the paranormal elements next time around. And I feel we'll have him because this is part 2. We've already had him once. Great dude. What'd you say? Patreon, on Patreon streaming, the BoomBastic streaming Patreon page. You have a prequel to this episode up right now as we speak. An
Heck yeah.
exclusive. By golly, I'm gonna have to hit that Patreon site up and become a Patreon supporter member pronto. You know what I mean? Better than going to Peru, Green Inferno style. You don't gotta travel that far. You just go to the Patron. But yeah, I'm hawking too much stuff. That's Hawk with H-A-W-K, not H-A-U-C-K. So, Hawkman, I'm gonna let you wrap it up and bring this gentleman in, and I'm very excited to have him in. Great dude, like I said, fan before, super fan after, super dude. Some call him Superman. You know what I'm saying? But he's great. He would have made a great Superman for real too.
Yeah.
I definitely could see that going. It ain't too late either. So hit him up. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. What season we starting up right now?
Season 7.
Woo! Did you ever think we'd make it this far?
I didn't think we were going to get past season 1, if you want to know the truth.
I knew we would. I knew we're good for at least 10 seasons before you leave us all behind in the dust because you're a big famous celebrity. But season 7, baby, it's beautiful. We're glad to be here. First of all, before we roll in, we want to say thank you to everybody that's been plugging along for 7 years with the BoomBasticAST. You know what I mean? We appreciate all y'all out there. And I hope you're still digging, dancing, and jiving and having fun with the cast boys. I know we have fun bringing you these episodes, and mucho gracias for 7 years.
Well, with that said, without further ado, here we have Richard Burgi. Welcome to the BoomBastiCAST. Richard, we are so happy to have you here. I gotta say, when I was looking into research, I noticed that I think your father was a drummer and your mother was a singer, and your brother also got into music. So creativity, and all of that must have been really big in your family.
Yeah, I grew up in a very, creative household, given full license to, my brothers and I made videos and movies. We had a Super 8 back in the day. We put on skits in the house. My older brother, super creative, wonderful artist, really a great writer and thinker and tremendous drummer. I didn't realize that I studied before. The two of us studied with the same drum teacher in New Jersey, and my dad never really studied, but he was teaching himself stand-up bass and knew how to play drums. Played in bands as a kid, and in the, I don't know, 40s or something. So yeah, they were both involved in local community theater, and yeah, it was a lot of good times back then. A lot of creativity, a lot of chaos, a lot of insanity as well.
Just as
Oh,
fun. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, isn't that kind of? I always thought that chaos and creativity kind of go hand in hand. You got to be a little bit on the edge.
I couldn't agree more. I think all the great thinkers and artists have come out of some sort of pain, some sort of struggle, some sort of compression of elements that lead one to, experience the psychedelic world, and whether you're doing it with substance or not. You don't have to have substance to get to that place where certain people tap into. And I don't know if it's a past life thing. I don't know if it's a current life thing. I don't know. It's the grace of God or Mother Nature, but yeah, it usually comes with some suffering.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things is that as an actor, that depending on whatever method or mode that you use to get into the different roles that you play, that one of the biggest one is you have to pull on from your own experiences, your own life, and sometimes being kind of on that edge and pushing the boundaries helps one be able to tackle a lot of different types of personalities, characters. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of friends, so I played like imaginary fight in the like my backyard. I pick up a stick and pretend I was fighting off some ninjas or something like that. And I think that's very important, especially, I mean, not just as an actor and a creative, but I think it's important for people themselves to, you know, kind of play like that. Kids play it like, learn how to, deal with the universe and push the boundaries of, what they imagine or what they, love to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I have a stepson, and he used to do these. My younger brother has a son who's autistic. He's on high functioning, and very, very creative. And my stepson used to do these patterns, and he would call them explosions, and just like you were saying, just kind of off gas energy. And I think that a lot of creatives have that sort of borderline of insanity and creativity, or on the spectrum, as people call it. So my stepson was exhibiting, or what maybe you would have exhibited back in the day, because there's a wisdom in that. There's a wisdom in the reality that you got to self-generate your own joy, connection with this crazy, not only earthbound energy field, but all the energy we're getting from the planetary system, as you know, as well as people, the energy from that. And so it's an interesting thing that you just talked about, that you would go in and deal with that, because your explanation was that you had, you know, you spent time alone, you know, you didn't have a lot of friends or whatever. And I think that is such a great foundation for a lifelong strength, inner strength. A lot of people can't, you know, will go the other way and they'll blame, oh, like I was an outcast. You know, a lot of people go crazy around that. But I also think that those are some of the most profound people in my lives that have had that experience where they kind of felt like, you know, oddballs. And I went through that a lot as well.
Yeah, creative expression is really the healthiest, you know, form of like rebuilding and growth that there is. We're all kind of blessed to not have gone in the other direction. So a lot of people deal with their issues other ways that are more like negative and self-harming to themselves. So art is always the way,
Harming to others as well. Yeah,
which is arguably
because they you know, it's just, you know, can we use F words here? Are we
sure.
Yes, it's kind of like fight or flight, you know, fight or fuck. A lot of times couples, if they're not fucking, they're fighting. And you know, and that's kind of the same thing. If you're in a relationship with life, you're either, you know, running, you know, from the difficulties of life, or you know, fighting into it, the fight or flight. And I see that essence of self-expression and fight, a good one, a good fight.
One of the things that I've noticed a lot in, you know, especially now where people are pushing towards, you know, like AI and computer generated things, that, you know, I feel like the idea of the creative, you know, people, you know, thinking outside the box and all of that, it's kind of been diminished quite a bit, and people don't seem to be kind of pushed to try new things, or think of new things. I mean,
Right.
a lot of stuff coming out of Hollywood, for example, is like remakes of stuff that's already been done, because everyone's kind of not nurturing the creative aspects that I think that we lose when, I mean, as children, you know, we play and we build our worlds and all that, and when we get older we have a tendency to lose that.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we're fighting right now, is that the reason that we're only getting remakes and that kind of stuff out of Hollywood and all of that is because no one's trying to nurture the creative aspect. So there's no new ideas. I mean, new ideas are out there, just no
Yeah.
one's really tapping into it.
It's well said, man. Well said, brother. There's a great movie called My Dinner with Andre,
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
in that he encapsulated exactly what you're saying. Andre Gregory talking to Wallace Shawn, and basically said that, you know, in order for theater or movies to be somewhat entertaining, it's got to be a superlative environment, an environment of exaggeration and essence, a heightened aware, you know, world, because people are living extraordinary lives. And yeah, it's funny you said that, because there's such a paucity of new ideas, and the mythic figures are so longed for. And what I think hopefully we'll come back to is a sort of a simplicity of the old ways. Maybe I don't know. I'm not really sure where it's all going. But I know, you know, what you're talking about is you know, this dearth of fresh ideas. My youngest son, turns me on to a lot of really interesting music, but it ain't like we grew up with. It ain't, you know, like the. I have a dear friend of mine who always, you know, knocks on the Beatles, because he's not, you know, the Beatles ain't Charlie Parker or you know, Lester Young or you know, Bill Evans. But you know, I grew up in the era with you know, Jimi Hendrix and that fertile fecund time of the pop. The Beatles were geniuses, effing geniuses.
For sure.
And but they were a hybridized version of American, blues and R&B influences, and then they, synthesize it in this amazing way. There are some interesting original artists, but God, it's you just hit it. Is it? Are there no new ideas? And so AI is the next step, the best we can do as a as a race, as a species, to say, hey, yeah, well, okay, everybody, you're going to get a monthly check, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to be creative. We got all that done for you, and we're going to what was it? Soil and Green. We're going to hit. You're going to have you're going to have what we give you to eat. It's going to be good for you, because as a society, we figured it out. As your elected officials who are well intentioned. We're going to give you what you need. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to work anymore.
Oil and Green is people.
True.
Right?
I mean, that is one of the big questions with entertainment in general nowadays. You're talking about music, but film and television, I assume the same thing. It's like it's gotten so easy. It's like the $1 million question. It's like, is it good that it's got so easy because a lot of people are now able to kind of do it, or is it bad because now everybody's doing it and it kind of lost that specialness to it, that exclusiveness, if you will?
Yeah, you had back in the six. I'm going to probably go before that, 40s, 50s, 60s. You had guys that had served in the war. You had Jimmy Stewart, and you had guys like Lee Marvin. You had these cats who had really suffered and struggled, and like were up against it. And I always had a hair up my ass because I didn't come from an august academic institution, like a Yale or Juilliard, like a lot of guys I would go up with, and they never knew what it was like to, I don't know, wake up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning to get to your job site on the Hudson River in the Carpenters Union in the middle of winter in order to just pay the bills. It was my gig, and then after that, go into the city to study up at Carnegie Hall. And I'm not saying I'm looking for any like, hey, whatever, geez, Jet, but I used to see these guys like, you privileged pricks, and that's just as arrogant. My point of view is maybe theirs, but like my ex-wife, who went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, used to drive her nuts because I work a little out of the box when and always have, and everything. So it's a very funny thing that the suffering and art and creativity.
Yeah, like hard times definitely create, I feel, better artists. I used to be one of the people that would be heavy on, if people had the upper hand or more money, or then you get all like, well, what the fuck, what's going on here? But then like everybody, I heard a quote that really stuck with me that was like how that everybody's fighting their own battles, and like even if somebody's like born into getting $1 million a day, they still have the same underdog feeling within them, you know what I mean, that you have. It's like a human condition, you know what I mean? Money is a big part of it too, because your reboots, or the studios are investing so much money into the films nowadays. They want to know they're going to get their return, you know what I mean? So, and then with AI, it's like it makes things so much easier. And we have a lot of filmmakers on the show, and we talk about like how I almost feel like a studio system doesn't like we all kind of came up in eras when like somebody was putting out, Kubrick was putting out a new movie, you go see it. Sam Raimi's putting out a new movie, you go see it. I think they're trying to get away from that because it gives more power to the filmmaker, you know what I mean? Where they kind of want to, nowadays it's if you get a successful film, they buy it and then they pass off the sequel to somebody else to kind of even out the power within the studio, so to speak. But it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, bro. I know, it's nutty, huh? It's nutty.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting dance.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, and you've been dancing well. You've been doing some good dancing over there yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny, I guess, an extrapolation of that little conversation or that snippet. I watched the slow shift from, like I try and tell anybody who, wants to think or glorifies artists, actors, whatever. I'm only an actor because somebody in my first gig I ever had, and there was somebody at Procter and Gamble that said, "Yeah, okay, he'll be good at selling household products." That's all I was a household, selling soap and dish detergent, whatever. But the Procter and Gamble was hawking, and that's why they call them soap operas. And it was a great gig for actors in New York. Great, I could pay my bills at night, theater, and the whole thing. And then you audition for commercials and audition for the odd movies and other, the higher end TV series that came to New York back in the days. But now, and nobody ever really questions it. It's the wildest kind of, I don't know, 3-card money, sleight of hand, and I'm not vilifying it, but I'm just saying, I just don't feel like being a big pharma salesman at this time in my life, and that's what is that you look at I sit with my mom, who's 100 years old, and I'm like, Mom, every commercial here on ABC Nightly News and all, it's like they're all big pharma. It's like some new, you got a runny nose, we got a vaccine for it, we got a pill for you, it's just big pharma's, and so
Yeah.
it's just this wild time where you have BlackRock, all these huge companies that are so heavily invested in this, and people don't ask questions anymore, and sort of examine the pernicious sort of takeover and morphing from Procter and Gamble or shows that had Firestone tires or whatever it was back in the day. Now it's predominantly a couple of industries that are paying the bills and supporting the artists.
To slightly go with that, I had a diabetes scare a few years ago, and I remember being in the hospital, and every commercial that came on was like poison food. I was like, oh my God, I can't eat this, I can't drink that. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Right,
wow.
right. Yeah. Right. And so you were also, because, was yours type A or B?
I was type 2, I believe. I was the one that
type 2. Yeah.
I got rid of it. Luckily, I changed up my diet and exercise and dropped some pounds and got out of it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that. I remember watching in the early stages of the COVID, because I was supposed to do a job with Katie Segal for ABC, and I tested positive for COVID, and I was like, whoa. I've had pneumonia a couple of times. I would surfing and growing up in New Jersey, living in California and being in the ocean all the time. And I like to have fun and drink beer and wine and bep, and I smoke cigarettes throughout my youth and on and off, and weed and the whole deal. And so I've had some lung issues, and I was like, oh, fuck, COVID, geez, okay. And the vaccine wasn't available. I don't know if I would have done it, but maybe, because I probably wouldn't have, but because I had a couple of years earlier had a buddy of mine said, he's a writer, hey, come on, let's go get the vaccine, flu vaccine. That flu, I got the flu, and then I got pneumonia. So I realized empirically that, okay, vaccine might not work for everybody. It didn't work for me. But I had a easy time with COVID. It was, very, very mild. And it made me look at all of these things that, I believe in healthy diet. I do, drink a fair amount, love my beer, but I have a pretty clean diet. I've always exercised a lot. And people like Dr. Shiva, I don't even know what happened to this cat, who had a double PhD in maybe physics and law or something, and he was also an adherent of advocate for Ayurvedic medicine. And he was like, well, why isn't anybody talking about building your immune system instead of looking for the vaccine to like an outside in thing? Like, how can we support people? And like what you did was circumvent having to go on some, shot or, daily big pharma thing. Maybe you are anyway, and maybe it's helping, but you attenuated your symptomology by your diet, by your lifestyle. And they talk about that, but it's also like, but it's easier, lose weight, get some Ozempic, and it's wacky. I'm not trying to vilify that. I'm just trying to, point out how it it bit me in the ass because I questioned the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough time, Yeah, Ozempic, I mean, that goes back to the AI thing where it's just like it's an easier solution. It might not be the most healthiest of solutions, but like it's the easier thing to do than getting out there and walking it off, eating right, stuff
Yeah,
like
right. Exactly. Yeah, there's some tried and true ways that, there's certain people that are born with diabetes. I knew a friend of mine's kid had to have the injection every day, and that's a horrible way to live. I still think that there's ways that's possibly attenuated with natural circumstances. I'm a big fan of Mother Nature. God, she and he made us, and we
Right.
did. So yeah. And I'm not vilifying. I'm just saying it was very interesting to watch this whole, like, wow, okay, that's the new oil business, big pharma. That's the new, but nobody's vilifying it.
Yeah. It's darkness. It's like the old cure to cancer deal. Like, is there really one out there? I know they make so much money holding it off, but could they actually give you something that literally just kills it in a couple months or whatever? It's a dark question, you know what I
Big
mean?
time, big time. No, I hit it. I got on that question early on watching my dad, over 3 years die of cancer. So I can keep going on that tangent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And yeah, the big pharma things, yikes, dude. We all could be put to sleep just talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then so many of them are well-intentioned people, and they're just collecting a paycheck, and they're doing what they can do in the name of what they think is goodness. So but yeah, I'm glad you did. So that's great, right? So you lost a lot of weight, you changed your
Yeah,
diet,
I
and
had to do
then
that.
like you got
Yeah,
you're all squared away.
yeah, right from the get-go, they had it. I was eating like an animal. I was very unhealthy. I was eating at like 3 in the night. I was drinking Mountain Dew like it was water, and not going to see the doctor. And I just one day, like it just slowly hit me, and everything I was fatigued. And I remember got back to my apartment, and I was like walking down the hall, and like by the end of it, I was leaning against the hall, and I was like, oh man, I gotta go see what's the deal. And I had like razor blades in my stomach, it felt like. So
Yeah,
I thought I had stomach cancer. So I was like, oh no, dude, like bring me to the hospital. And I went in there and they said my blood sugar was over 900. They said people are usually in comas at this point. I was in the ICU. Yeah, I was in the ICU for 3 days. They put the thing through my arm into my heart. And then I was in the hospital for like a little over a week. But like, yeah, dude, it was just horrifying. Dehydrated. I remember chewing food, like eating turkey, and it felt like eating rocks. And like I had to learn, I almost had to practically to learn how to walk again, which was nuts because I was in the bed so long. It was wild. But yeah, I had to come out with the 3 shots, take 3 shots in the belly every day. And it's like I tried losing weight my whole life. The thing that did it was they're like, you're gonna be dead if you don't. So I was like, yeah, I guess I'll take that. I'll go for that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's crazy. Health's a wild thing. Anybody out there listening, take care of your health. You never know when it's gonna take a trip. You know what I mean?
No question. And get back to the old ways, live closer to the earth. There's so many, and they're all wonderful products. I was just eating the Frito chili cheese. I love that stuff. I can do it because I just took a bike ride. I go to the gym. But a lot of people don't adhere to those things and then drink a lot of water, good water, and, exercise, breath work, whatever it is. But like eating close to the earth, whether you're killing your own game or you're harvesting your own vegetables, or you're not eating, because that's what our forebears did, right? That's what this whole rage of paleo is all about, the paleo diet. Like Every now and again, you're going to go hungry, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, they
Just
say that.
like not eat.
Yeah, they say that stomach pain is like a good pain. It's eating up like the fat.
Right, and it's also that you know, a lot of people don't realize that that also adds to the creative impulse. Like, how am I going to, you know, get something like out of the water, or you know, running down the you know, hill, or up in the tree or on the ground to like sustain me. These are old impulses of the creative spirit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You brought up the soap opera world. You've been a part of all the big ones. You know what I mean? Kudos, kudos. I've always been very curious of like the shooting schedule of those, because it's they air every day, right? Like when they go, is it there an off time
No,
when
it
you
doesn't
guys
air every day. There are like a couple, 3 weeks, sometimes a month in advance.
Okay, because yeah,
Mhm.
it seems like it'd be a tough schedule, but
Dude, it's so
uh,
great. It's such great training. It is. I love that crucible because it's like doing live. It's like doing live theater every day, and you ain't doing the same play. You know what I mean? Every day
yeah,
you're getting reams and reams of new shit, and it's like getting that part of your brain really pumped. That short term memory, and you know the side effect. A lot of times I think the brain gets really slippery. Like I don't know what I did yesterday. I you know, or had for dinner yesterday, but I can remember reams of stuff and hold it, and you know, remember stuff from when I was younger. But that part of my brain that got flexible to take on so much information and then expurgate it and then move on to like a whole new deal the next day got pretty strong. It's a wonderful world, and you got to like really get your shit squared away. And so I was able to, last show I did was able to blend a fair amount of improv with I think it just tons of shit to say,
yeah.
uh, and I was able to get most of the, you know, throughout the course of my career. I'll give them what you want. I'll try and go word for word. And then there's people who are like, yeah, no, find the jam and you know, the scat, the jazz in the words, you know, but give us the basic structure, you know, bring your thing into it, which is a lot of the old actors were all about, you know. I'm gonna take a basic template of with the script, but I'm gonna also give you my own real time improv jam session as we go in this scene. And then there's times where that didn't work. There were times where like, nope, word for word, boom, shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear you create. We're writing. Shut the. It's out. Yeah, you know, you dance.
That's like a superpower, because, like I was telling you previously, like we do the independent films, and every now and then, Alex is a great actor, but every now and then I'll give myself like a cameo, and it'll be like a two-liner, and when that camera comes on and it's a whole different word. You're very used to it, both of you are very used to it, but for like people listening, when that camera pops on and you're like, this is your time to go, do it, hurry up. It's like you can get like flustered and like forget your lines pretty quickly. So I always give you guys huge kudos when you guys spit out big dialogue like that stuff. It's
Yeah, that's cuckoo.
yeah,
And even small stuff, you know, funny to your point. I had a buddy of mine, handsome bastard, just all the girls loved him, good athlete. You know, he was like one of the guys. And we worked construction together, as well as played sports in high school, and had a lot of fun. And he knew I was an actor, and was like, yeah, I'll come in. Let me come in with you. Let me. So I was on like a Coke commercial in New York when I was still living here. I said, all right, come on. So I say, yeah, this is my buddy, and just give him a shot. He's like, oh yeah, good looking guy. Yeah, good work. Who knows? Clammed up, you know, like a real tight bivalve. Couldn't even get a knife in there. And he just, okay, right, I'll see you there. And I don't think I got the job, but it's a whole different world, as you said, when the camera comes on,
the,
and you're because you have, like what you had said earlier about you know, playing in the backyard and creating your own world. That's what you have to do. You have to completely check out and check in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was funny. I remember when I first started trying to get gigs. The only thing I had before when I got out of college was like I did a bunch of community theater, which is a lot of fun and a good training ground. And I remember trying to get like representation, trying to get into like doing commercials or TV or film. And I went to like a few open calls. And what I loved was they were trying to sell me on, signing up for these classes, drop like $200, $300 for these classes so they could teach me how to be an actor on screen. And
Right.
and I just like, okay, the difference between, I mean, maybe it's just me, but my opinion is the difference between theater and TV is theater, you have to project, you have to be bigger because you're acting to the old lady at the very end of the row. And when you're doing movies, the audience is there. It's the camera. So everything's a lot closer, a lot more intimate. So I was like, I don't think I need to pay $300 for your class to tell me something I already know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. It's a, it's, I think I might have said last time when I'm talking to you guys, if I go to like, ask to talk to kids that are in some theater programs, I was like, hey, get your beggar's bowl out and prepare to put it in front of you and be a pauper and make your vows with poverty. Because it ain't, an artist's life does not confer abundance or prosperity necessarily.
And people out there listening, be careful of those teachers. Us in Boston, we had kind of Hollywood come to us.
Yeah, exactly.
In the last 10 years, we had Hollywood come here in a big way. All the Sandler movies and stuff were coming down this way. And I was seeing a lot of people that were doing like background, like starting classes to teach. And it's like, I don't think the credentials are there on that one. You know what I mean?
So many charlatans. It's incredible how many parasites are out there.
Sad. You know what I mean? Feeding off of people's hopes and dreams. I brought up Boston. I know you got to work with Eli Roth twice on Hostel 2 in the Green Inferno. He's one of our hometown heroes. What was it like to work with Eli on those films?
My favorite part was working for his dad, with his dad on Hostel 2, who was a professor at Harvard in psychology.
Really?
Yeah, look it up. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's it was fantastic. I love Eli. I just did something kind of weird. I love knives. I did something with my knife in the audition, and he loved it. And he's a sweetheart. We've had so with the Green Inferno, we just 4 days, 3 days down in Chile. It was like boom, boom, halfway around the planet or down. And he's so bloody creative and sweet and funny. And all we did on Hostel 2, me and Roger and Eli, we just laughed. And so another dear friend, Mike Fleiss, who created the Bachelor series, Bachelorette and all that, was the producer on Hostel 2. And I don't think he was on Hostel, and I don't remember, but I was on Hostel clearly. But so I'm doing a show, a scene with Roger in the studio, wherever the hell we were in Prague, and Eli goes, Burgi, come on, you gotta, he just pulled me right off the set, and he says, place it here. He just landed. So we go in, and Mike flies middle of winter in Czech Republic, and so this big guy with these, Coke bottle sunglasses, prescription sunglasses, and his black T-shirt and black shorts and black flip flops, poking holes in the Coke can to bust a big, hit and like that was the whole world that we were living in, and it was just super fun and super like. I stayed to the material, but riffed in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, I love working with Eli.
I know you got those two films. You also got like Decoys and the Friday the 13th reboot. Are you a horror fan or just a fan of films in general?
Old school horror,
Yeah.
Dracula and Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Frankenstein, and I dug, Friday the 13th, Halloween, all that shit. I got a good buddy who's in the Saw movies, Kostas Mandalore.
Yeah.
I might be able to hook you guys up if you want to connect with him.
Oh yeah.
I don't even have a TV right now. My girlfriend and I were talking about going to get one. It's hard for me to watch, but I like some of the geniuses. Carpenter was amazing.
Yes.
Hitchcock was amazing.
Yeah.
Eli, Brill, absolutely Brill. Who was the other one? I forget, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan. But it's interesting. It's interesting going to these. I've gone to a couple of these conventions, and people that really really dig it are an interesting breed. My brother's a huge horror fan.
Yeah, you brought up Hitchcock. Yeah, me and Alex just went to the Rare Window 35 millimeter in the city of Hitchcock's. Great times doing it. Really cool, really cool.
It's classic, man.
Yeah, I had a question about action. You did a couple episodes of action. Very fun show. My question was, the pilot was directed by Ted Demme, the great late, unfortunately passed away. You got any stories from working with Ted?
I was called in after, so the role was originally offered to Kurt Russell, and he had to do something or couldn't do it, and then they called me, and I don't think I did. I don't think I did the pilot. I just worked with the cat, Chris, who wrote it, who was a nut, just a love. And Jay and I grew up one town away from each other. He grew up in a town called Verona. I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey, and it was just so fun. Again, one of these like silly, completely free. Like we were, Chris. I'm trying to get it's not Cooper, right? Chris. I'll get it in a second. But the guy who created it was like, all right, yeah, go have fun. Go. This is give me one, give me this, give me a couple of that. And Jay, loves his improv, and just fucking cut it up. And I met Buddy Hackett. Please, nice. I mean, he walked on water for me.
Well, with you being part with music, such a big thing in your family, when it comes to getting into character, or learning a role, are you a dude that likes to get into is music a part of your creation of the character? Or
once I get the words down, and once I do the silence of the, so I studied percussion, and so I just recently, this last year, I bought another book, because I stopped my studies in drumming, and I remember the freedom when I was able to read and have 4 different things going in my body, and then I was able to then translate the freedom into improvisation with two hands doing 2 different things, and then 2 feet doing 2 different things. And so I come from that place sort of when I'm learning. I just come from the rudiments, learn the words. What is the word? What are the words? What am I hearing from the other person? All right, then subtext, and so I layer in whatever the kind of jam possibilities are energetically, not necessarily with the notes or the music or the words, if you will. So I will listen to music to evoke a certain, you know, sometimes you really, if you're going to cry and you're doing a really rough scene that you need to, you know, really get down to it and get to the emotive component of crying, or grief. You know, tears or that whole expression is not always, you know, the true measure of grief. But to answer your question, I will use music sometimes to, you know, as part, not necessarily as the trailhead, but along the way.
Definitely a good companion, you know what I mean, to help.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it's always been there. Last night, it's funny. I listened to a lot of the old Irish. There's this Liam Clancy. These songs, holy crap! And it's just and I just cried my eyes out last night. On my way over to my mom's to feed her, and it's the weirdest thing. I don't know if it's past life stuff. I don't really know what it is, but it was just sweet. These songs are sweet, but they're like, there's such suffering and pain.
I always tell this guy, I said, one of the biggest things money would be beautiful for in films is getting some music to it, because some of that music, man, you play it and it does the work for you. You know what I mean? It's just it's magic. I heard someone call it magic once. They said you can't touch it, you can feel it, but you can't touch it or see it. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, right. And conversely, I play a lot of up music. I love dancing, and you know, if I'm going to go out and have fun and create and be goofy, and yeah, so it's not always lugubrious and dour or dour, however you want to pronounce it. It's pronounced Dewey, D-O-U-R.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely, I always had music in my trailer, and a lot of times I would have it in my back in, sometimes have some headphones in just to insulate me and keep me in the space of whatever was happening in the music.
Alex,
Hey,
I feel I've been hogging Richard. Yeah, I was gonna say.
hey, I have a question because you've done a lot of TV series and all of that. One thing I've always wondered is that if you're a get like a recurring guest star, and you're, you know, do they write, like they say, okay, we write a script and this guy we've had a few times, we want to bring him back. Do they like reach out to you first before they write the script, or do they write the script and then reach out? Because sometimes, you know, they have like a character that's been on, they have another actor come in for it, or I always wondered how that works.
Well, yeah, I've been on both sides of that. You know, I've been on both. Like, I established a character on the last show, daytime show I did, that was very popular, and then the whole COVID thing, like I got, but then they tried to recast the character, and it didn't work out. Um, and I've been on shows where uh, they didn't ever want to change the character. It was what it was. Even if I couldn't do it, the character just didn't show up. They didn't recast, because I guess the character had, they were like, okay, if you can't do it, we're done. Let's move on. Change the script. The characters died off screen or whatever. So yeah, the interesting thing is when you have a character that is popular, and then you have negotiations that create some sort of snag, insofar as, you know, leverage, because maybe that character has a footprint, and based on demographics and analytics, and the producers say, no, that's not what we had planned, and it's a wacky little dance. So yeah. You know, when you do something that, and it's happened a lot. You know, I was just talking to somebody about The Wolf of Wall Street, and how there's so many great performances, but for me, McConaughey was at his best. It was just that. But I'm a self-absorbed actor. I'm like, because I'm always looking like, give me the bullshit. Let me see where you're phoning it in. And he was fucking like, as was like Jonah, so many of them. DiCaprio was great, but yeah. So I see stuff, and I get where, in the event you have a, I've been through it. I did a show with a very famous actress, and the producer, like, he was one of my mentors, and he loved me because he said, Burgi, and he had this huge laundry list of TV series hits. And he was like, you're my guy. I love, because you always give me whatever I've written, but you improvise. And he came from music, and he said, anyway, so that's not always the case, because you have people that always want their word is sacred if they're writers. But the piece that I was alluding to was what you had said before, like the main actress, she was like, well, you're still in the spotlight. That wasn't my intention to steal the spotlight. My intention is always to, like when John Coltrane played with Miles, he was so bloody good. It wasn't like he was stealing. He wasn't like he was out there like, hey, but he was. It was like, this is me. This is all I do, and this is my gold, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm not trying to take away from Miles or anybody else, who's out here. I could think of many others, throughout history, using music as the, that broke out and overshadowed. And that's what I don't know if that's what you were alluding to, but yeah, I think you had said something about having a character that gets written out, or change it. It's easy to change characters. Sometimes it is, and sometimes, like what they did with what was that, 2.5 Men.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't think it was ever the same after Charlie left.
I'm not an Ashton Kutcher fan, so I got.
Charlie and I did a eulogy for one of my dear friends. God rest his soul, Paul Gleason. Paul was the principal in the Breakfast Club and did a bunch of movies and stuff. And Charlie, he's just a nut. And I turned my girlfriend on to Apocalypse Now with that. My God, I mean, that's still just one of those movies.
Well, one of the things I want to go off of what you said about the actress thinking that you were like stealing a spotlight, overshadowing. I mean, I'm a strong believer that acting is a team sport, and that, honestly, I personally love it when someone is doing a job even better than I can, because it gives me something to work off of and makes my performance better. And I think that's extremely important, especially in doing film and theater and whatever you're doing creatively, is to have someone that pushes you to be better. And I mean, I find it really short-sightedness when you have someone who's like, oh, this guy's stealing my spotlight, this guy's, all the attention on him. Is like, if that's the case, then try to bring the attention on you by trying to get up to them, not trying to bring them down to your level. You have to rise up to their level.
Well said. So well said, brother.
Yeah. I take you for a very spiritual dude. Is that something that's always been a part of you, or did you kind of get it during the travels, so to speak, the journey?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting. I can dance with the Christians. I can dance with the Muslims. Dance with the Vedantists. I love my Gnostic friends. I go through all kinds of. I have my Zoroastrian. I just have always loved this idea of what is God? You know, and I remember doing something my buddy had turned me on to, and the people that had started it were devotees of like some Indian guru. And it was a weekend long course. And, you know, for me, Mother Nature was always, you know, where the cathedral of nature was always my world. And I didn't grow up very heavily religious. That's another long story. My mother's was a practicing Catholic, only because she inherited that. That was what was sort of foisted upon her. Good, bad, whatever. It was perfect. She's wonderful. One of the smartest people I know, but only has a high school Catholic education, which is genius, which is brilliant, wonderful, which is a lot of people excoriate or vilify the Catholic faith. It's brilliant. It's just because when humans get involved,
right,
they'll find a way to fuck it up.
exactly.
And I've, you know, spent a lot of time with my Hindu brothers and sisters, and I love some of the Vedantas, the oldest extant text. There's a place in Hollywood, I was going to say there's one over here, but I'm in New Jersey, in Southern California, in Orange County. The Vedas are the oldest extant sacred texts. And there's a bitchin' place if you ever get to LA called the Vedanta Center. It's up off of the 101. You can see it. It's got this. It's been there since the 20s. The whole theosophical movement I was tuned into, and metaphysics and all that stuff. And so spirituality, I love reading all the, you know, everything from the theologian existentialist to the, you know, what's his name, Padre Pio, or to, you know, Vivekananda's works. So it's been, what is God? What are we? Wow, what's all this fighting about? What was I not really given, or like, you know, handed down? So I'm grateful for my mom and dad giving me this kind of freedom to explore. And you know, I was telling I could show you. I've had this collection of Muslim prayer rugs. They have this thing called the mihrab that. When you know, everybody comes down 5 times a day. I was like, 5 times a day, you're praying. God love you. You know, and it faces east towards the rising sun, and you know, it goes back to the early solar, you know, worship, the Ra, and you know, the various permutations of that, and it's an interesting. I can go on, but so yeah, it's not, I mean, spirituality and that this. It's probably only doubled down because I watched my dad die and saw a lot of death in my teens.
Yeah.
Without having to go to war.
Yeah, higher power is definitely an important thing for people to have.
Yeah.
More so in the arts like that too, because like I'm sure it's definitely come in handy, you know, in a business where you're selling yourself, so to speak. So if you take like a hit, it's like it's easy to take it very personal. You know what I mean? Like if you don't get a job or something like that. So having that, it's almost clarity. You know what I mean? It's clarity in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The ego is it's both the flower and the prick.
Yeah, there it is. Oh yeah. Alex, you got any more questions? We've had Richard on here. He gave us a good amount of time. He's a good man.
Well, I mean, as we were talking about before, the series that really you know, brought you to my attention was, of course, the Sentinel, which I love it. And I gotta say, what I loved about it was the fact that you and everyone involved seemed to be a good, cohesive, like ensemble. Everyone seemed to work well off each other. Seemed like you guys, you know, were having a good time, and the stories were fun and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, was that the truth? I mean, I thought it was a great series, and really, I wish it went more than 4 seasons.
Yeah, a lot of people did too. You know, it was so funny. The producers, Danny and Paul, God rest his soul, passed away. They were so bloody creative and so fun to work with. They were such nuts. And they had, sort of lightning in a bottle because they were trying to do a feature film a week. That was their intention. That's what they were trying to do with Paramount, the UPN, and Bruce Young, who played the captain, was just a theater nut and loves his cosplay. I was just so like always working on like making it better. And Garrett, same thing. His old man was a pretty popular actor, or had some success, and just his older sister Fiona Apple, and so we tried to protect the sort of sanctity of the characters and stuff, and because we were up in Vancouver, and the writing staff was in LA, and it got to be a little disconnect, and it was a really amazing time, and I reconnected with Danny recently, and yeah, we've been through a lot together, and there's things he would probably wish he had done different, and definitely things I wish I had done differently because of just the nature of the delicacy of it. But I was also newly married, had a new son. I felt such responsibility for the crew and the content, and yeah, I don't have. Thankfully, I don't have a huge ego. That I have a much weirder, bigger worldview and personal view. So I was just grateful to be a part of that little wonderful thing, and I appreciate you saying that, because I was just sort of this one little spinning centrifuge in this crazy experiment of Danny and Paul and Pet Fly Productions and Paramount.
Oh yeah.
Well, like I said before, what I think makes a good series, that is when you have good people that work well off each other, and like I said, just support each other, and that's how I felt watching the series. I was always excited to see what you guys were going to be up to, because it felt like a very family like atmosphere, and that's what brought me into it. Because of course, you got the cool actions, set pieces. You got your character with your abilities, but instead of, let's say, Superman flying, leaping tall buildings with a single bound, okay,
Right.
which that's not like logistically possible in reality. Your character, with, of course, you have the heightened senses, but it was still kind of in the same world that we can live in. I mean,
Right. The same human vulnerabilities.
yeah, it felt like it's. I think the best way to say it, your character was the most human superhuman I've seen, where you were still human guy with all the pitfalls and all that, but you had a little extra stuff that makes things a little bit more interesting for your character, which of course drew in the audience. But what I thought really made it was the human factor. So you had a little bit of that, I would say, the frosting on the cake, which was the enhanced sight and hearing and all that. But the underlying and the meat and potatoes of the show was this detective, going to do trials and tribulations, and just made you feel like this was something that you could actually run into your character and be like, hey, how are you doing? And that's what I really loved about the show.
That's nice to hear. And it was that, brother. It was a family. We loved each other so much, so much. It was, and it was a widened circle, with the crew, and everybody was doing the work, the guest stars, and the only dislocation was because the writers were so far away and they couldn't come and really hang all the time, and to put a button on it, I've had so many people that I looked up to that were not actors, that were not, that were like, local guys played sports with, local guys, that played music, and were just workaday Joes that had this grace. And I always try to keep that sort of blue collar mentality with everything I've done. And at the same time, lampooning, because I look a certain way, and people then confer, some sort of status on me. And I always made a point to take the piss out of, people that look like me.
This was fantastic, Richard. We thank you very much, man. We usually end with one last question. We have a lot of artists, filmmakers, comedians, actors, authors that listen to the show, all the way from 50-cent projects up to the bigger ones. Do you have any advice for anybody that might find themselves in a rut, or like kind of, stuck in a position where they can't really get out of, whether they're feeling down about where they're at, with their art or creativity or their career, if you will? Any words of advice to kind of give them some pep, keep going type?
Yeah, I don't care if I would desaturate from any impulse to drink a lot, do drugs, take anything that's going to soften the uncomfortable feeling of gloom. Cigarettes was a way I remember rolling my own and really enjoying the sacred intake of tobacco to really go into the places of my ancestral suffering and the human suffering, and get out in nature, walk around, get into the fucking unknown, and get the fuck out of a city, get your feet on the ground. Hey, Tower of Power wrote a great song, "Get Your Feet Back on the Ground," take your fucking shoes off, get fucking native. I don't care what time of year it is, in the middle of winter. Feel the fucking cold, feel the heat. Get out and let Mother Nature, let God and all of his and her brilliance talk to you. Break down, cry as much as you fucking can, and don't resist the inevitability of change and the onslaught of potential wisdom through suffering.
I like that. That's good advice, man. Well, we thank you. This is a lot of fun, dude. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back on again sometime. Shoot the Shayatollah. You're a good man.
I love you guys. It's so fun hanging with you. Cheers.
Oh, yeah, much love. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to it.
Have a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the great Richard Burgi in the building and out of the building right there. Richard has left the building like Elvis. Fantastic. Very cool dude. And he knew exactly how to pop out immediately at the right time. There's no pause, dude. He's a professional. I love him. That dude's great. We got a chance to interview him beforehand. That's up on the Patreon, exclusive for y'all Patreon folk out there that have been supporting. We wanted to slide you a little something. You got a little more Sentinel talk in there, and I know the Hauck man's loving it. I'm a big fan of it too, and yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to sit down with Richard, man. I didn't know what to expect when you know what I mean, but I knew we were going to get a good episode, and we got a better episode than I thought we were going to get out of it, dude. Richard was a super cool dude. Done everything. We could have went on for another like 2 hours with the dude. I think he gave us like an hour and a half. Great dude. He's literally been a part of some of the biggest things. Seinfeld, we didn't even tap into Seinfeld. He's in the famous Shrinkage episode. We'll get next time we get him back on it, we could talk about that. But I felt like we had to cut him loose, you know what I mean? Like we had him on for like an hour and a half. He was getting messages from a director in like the first 5 minutes, and I was like, I hope this ain't going to be a negative thing for him not picking up the phone. I know how creatives can be. If you don't pick up for them, they get upset sometimes. So I hope that ain't the case with the director. Shout out to the director. Come on the BoomBastiCAST. Have some fun with the BBC boys. And this was another great episode. Opening to a new season. Welcome everybody to season 7. We're very happy to be here with you. Richard was a great guest opening up. What do you think, Hauck, man? What did you think of the episode?
Oh, I mean, I gotta say, I love it. I love talking to Richard. I'm so glad that he agreed to be on the show. and like we've said many countless times on other episodes, that we of course love to talk shop, but we also love to know more about the person. And we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about spirituality. We talked about AI. Creative. Kind of impulses being dampening. I mean, and that's what I love. I love to talk and go to different places with people, because what we want to do is give you something that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Hmm.
And Richard, he was great. He talked. He brought in and gave us his energy, and again, like Matt said, I mean, there's so many things he's been a part of. He's been part of Desperate Housewives. He's been part of
You want me,
24.
want me to do that rundown? Do that rundown right quick. We got
All
some
right, go
we got
ahead.
some empty nest, anything but love. Who's the boss? Seinfeld, Days of Our Lives, Payback with the late Anthony Hickok. Rest in peace from Full Eclipse, a movie I love. Hellraiser 3 and Waxwork equally as good. The Great Sentinel, of course, we talked about that a little bit. There was a really cool, fun show called Action about making movies. Veronica's Closet. I think that got touched. Do you think he touched base on that for a little bit, but didn't go into anything too crazy? But I think that's the film he was talking about, a show he was talking about. Just Shoot Me, 24 with Kiefer Sutherland doing it big. He was Bud Blue, the Wild Man, and Trash, Michael Lehman film, director of Heathers, Airheads, you know what I mean? Cool stuff like that. Hudson Hawk, I believe. Hawk spelled Ahuck, like you. Um, the Decoys, Starship Troopers. I've part two. I've bought that for the old man on every format that has been made, and I always appreciate when we have. It's one thing for us to like the people, which we do, but it's another thing for us to be able to interview somebody that I could actually tell the old man and him be like, "Oh, really?" Or tell my nephew and him be like, "Oh no!" Like those are the ones that really get me going, get me dancing in the dock. You know what I mean? Like Tina Turner. Cellular, you know what I mean? Written by the great Larry Cohen, of course. Fun with Dick and Jane. Hostel 2, Friday the 13th reboot, Desperate Housewives, Burn Notice, The Green Inferno, General Hospital, Young and the Restless, The Flash, just to name a few. You know what I mean? Just to name a few.
Yeah.
The dude is kicking ass in being a good guy and kicking ass and killing it in his field. And that's what we love to see, you know what I mean? Richard was a super fucking awesome dude. Hoping to have him on again. Like I said, there is a prequel episode to this in the Patreon for anybody who wants to get down. Like I said, we got to talk to Richard twice so far, and I already feel like he's a member of the Dang family. You know what I mean? So, Richard, if you're listening, welcome to the BoomBastiCAST family, dude. We got nothing but love and respect for you, and would love to have you back on to talk about new things. And it was cool. Like we started out the interview just talking about real life shit, which is always good. You know what I mean? Just discussion, a lot of fun stuff before we tap into the. We probably could have went all that, but I was like, we should probably throw some entertainment questions in here too. But a lot of fun. He's a blast, man. It was great to kind of chop it up with Richard, and he's a Boombastic Films fan, I heard too. So what can you do?
Well,
What do you
I
think?
hope so. I hope so.
I think so. I think I got the memo. But yeah, dude, great dude, great dude. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
So are we gonna wrap up this episode, or do you have
Well,
anything else you want to say?
nothing really. I just like just I'm he's definitely one of the people I really want to get on the show, and I was
Succeeded.
so happy that we were able to get him on the show.
You
And
were, brother. That's a Hawkman find. You the
hey,
king, baby. You the king. This was great. Richard's the man, dude. Um, you know what I mean? I was a fan going in, and I'm a bigger fan going out. What else could you ask for? You know what I mean? So we hope everybody out there enjoyed this episode. You know, go support Richard. Catch him on TV and movies, and when you see him on screen, share. I don't care where you're at. You need to stand up. You could be eating dinner with the family in the living room. You could be in a movie theater. You see Richard come on screen, you jump up, both fists in the air, Breakfast Club style. Yeah, and give some love to Richard. From us to him, from you to them. Doing it big. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, if you listening to it, go listen to more wherever you listen to that. And if you watch it on the tube, which I think is the best place to see it, other than Patreon, of course. Patreon's pretty fantastic. You catch it early episodes on the Patreon, but YouTube's the place. Don't tell Spotify and iTunes and all those people and iHeartRadios, but I do feel watching an interview is better than listening to an interview, if I do say so myself. And Richard's one of the most handsome people there ever was, so how you not going to want to watch this interview? Right next to Hauck, of course. I seen him over there. But hell yeah, this was a lot of fun. We always appreciate your support, no matter how you're giving it. Live long and prosper, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode of the BoomBastic Cast. Peace out.